Storm chasing. It has exploded in popularity over the last decade as more and more chasers have begun filming and chasing tornadoes and have flocked to video sharing platforms like YouTube. Today, there are no shortage of chasers online, but let's have a look back to the very start of the art of chasing and move through the years, covering the origins, its rise to notoriety, media portrayals, and all the crazy cars and people over the years. But before we begin, let's quickly establish what storm chasing really is, because sometimes the definition can get a little bit mixed up. When people think of storm chasing, they think of. But to broadly define storm chasing, it can be labeled as the deliberate pursuit of any severe weather phenomenon, regardless of motive. But everyone has a different reason as to why they chase. Most chase for the curiosity, adventure, the footage, and the fame. Others chase for scientific purposes with probes and other devices, and others for news coverage on major outlets or simply on online video sharing platforms. So with that in mind, let's head all the way back to the December of 1874, where some argue that the Scottish naturalist John Muir was technically the first storm chaser, as Muir would climb a 100-foot tall tree during a windstorm, clinging onto the tree for hours and later writing, quote, "Never before did I enjoy so noble an exhilaration of motion." But the two men pointed to as the pioneers of storm chasing are Roger Jensen and more notably David Hoadley. Both men would be born and raised in the state of North Dakota, and their passion of weather would be sparked by them watching the thunderstorms roll across the open plains of North Dakota. Jensen would begin chasing at the age of 20 in 1953, and Hoadley would begin in 1956. Around this point in time, cars were more and more prominent, providing quick access to storms, and car radios delivered broadcasts from the Weather Bureau. David Hoadley would later go on to found and be the first editor of the Storm Track magazine. During the 50s and 60s, Neil B. Ward would subsequently bring research chasing to the forefront, as he was the first scientific storm chaser, developing many ideas about thunderstorms, tornado structure, forecasting, and intercepting storms. He would enlist the help of the Oklahoma Highway Patrol to study storms. His work pioneered modern storm spotting and made institutional chasing a reality. The first coordinated storm chasing activity sponsored by institutions was undertaken as a part of the Alberta Hail Studies Project beginning in 1969. Vehicles were outfitted with various meteorological instrumentation and hail-catching apparatus and were directed into suspected hail regions of thunderstorms by a controller at a radar site. In 1972, a combined effort between the University of Oklahoma and the National Severe Storms Laboratory led to the development of the Tornado Intercept Project, and in 1973, the interception of the famous Union City, Oklahoma tornado provided a turning point in understanding tornado and supercell morphology. At the same time, it was Hoadley's Storm Track magazine that brought the chasing community together, and from this success, the first generation of storm chasers was born. Storm chasing would then see three spurts of popularity. In 1978, during an episode of In Search Of, a show devoted to mysterious phenomena. In 1985, with a documentary on the science television program Nova, and most famously in the May of 1996 with the iconic movie that is Twister. This movie was massive, as it would make an impression on many young children at the time, and the movie alone would help raise an entire wave of chasers, as many today credit the movie for sparking their meteorological interest. And even today, this movie holds up. And I also want to mention The Wizard of Oz, because even though this movie came out decades before storm chasing ever gained any traction, the tornado scene in the movie would intrigue many young children who watched the movie in the decades following it, as it is also another source of inspiration, like Twister. One more notable man intrigued by the movie would be Tim Samaras, who would go on to make many groundbreaking discoveries during his scientific missions. 3 years before the release of Twister, one 13-year-old Reed Timmer would be standing in his yard at his home in Michigan and would be pelted by golf ball-sized hail. This would be the start of Reed's interest in weather, a man who would go on to be the most famous and well-known and respected chaser in the community. But more on him in a little bit. In 2002, the first vehicle specifically designed to intercept tornadoes would be built by Sean Casey, as he would heavily modify a 1997 Ford F-Series F-350 truck and turn it into what is now known as the Tornado Intercept Vehicle, or TIV for short. This vehicle would be used to intercept several tornadoes on the Discovery series Storm Chasers before it would be preceded by the TIV-2 in 2008. The show would go on to spark much more interest in storm chasing during its runtime from 2007 to 2011. The other and more famous tornado intercepting vehicle would be the Dominator family, belonging to the man himself, Reed Timmer. There are 5 separate Dominators to date, and Reed has starred in many storm chasing documentaries and shows, most famously the show Tornado Chasers, and recently the Storm Rising show that is available on Disney+. In 2013, the first storm chasing deaths ever would unfortunately occur. Now, chasers have been killed, but it had been from the result of hundreds of hours of commuting, resulting in car accidents. The first tornado-related fatalities would come on the infamous May 31st, 2013, El Reno, Oklahoma EF3, that would go on to be the widest tornado ever recorded. The storm would claim legendary storm chaser Tim Samaras, alongside his son Paul, and in addition, Carl Young would also lose his life. These deaths would shock the storm chasing community, and would make many reconsider and question storm chasing as a whole. And over the following 10 years, many more chasers would be impacted and injured by tornadoes. This has become alarmingly more common over the past couple of years as the media and internet have favored the closer and more intense tornado footage, inherently compounding the danger. But at the present day, storm chasing is in the best shape it's ever been, with storm chasers on YouTube gaining massive audiences. Guys like the legend himself, Pecos Hank, Reed Timmer, and so many more amazing chasers with tens of thousands of subscribers. It appears storm chasing will continue to thrive for many more years.